Hi guys, Alistair Taylor down here at Lytham Golf Academy, and today we're going to be testing should you be using 5 wood or 3 hybrid. Right then guys, so certainly with the modern golf ball not spinning loads, certainly a lot of golfers nowadays find those longer irons harder than ever to use. So we're seeing more and more kind of hybrids and lofted fairway woods in the bag. So today's idea is we're going to test 5 wood against 3 hybrid, both Titleist TS2, both at 18 degrees, and we're going to see what the difference in ball flight and launch conditions are to maybe help give you a slightly better idea that if you're looking to change long irons out the bag, should you be looking at a 5 wood or a 3 hybrid? Because they're very, very different with the way they're designed and maybe aimed at 2 very different types of golfers. So guys, if you're new down to my channel, welcome down to Ali Taylor Golf. Thank you for taking the time to watch my content. If you're enjoying today's video, click the subscribe button. Remember to ring the notification bell as well. That way you'll find out whenever my new product lands. But for now, let's see, should you be using 5 wood or 3 hybrid? So certainly when we look at the 2 clubs side by side, we can see the 5 wood much longer from front to back than the hybrid. So that's where the centre of gravity is going to be a little bit further back in the head. It's going to help launch the ball a little bit higher, maybe create a little bit more spin on the ball, fly higher and maybe land a little bit softer. When we look underneath on these 2 clubs, the 5 wood's got the weight towards the back of the club head, where with the hybrid it's a little bit nearer the face. So again, like we said before, this is about controlling launch conditions and giving a slightly different flight on the shot. And certainly when we look at them from the front, that profile shape size is very, very noticeable. Bigger 5 wood, and obviously the shaft longer in the 5 wood should create a bit more speed. Right then guys, so I'm going to start off with 5 wood. So we saw certainly when we look at the hybrid and the 5 wood side by side, completely different design of head. So bigger footprint from front to back. So the idea being that this should, particularly with the weight being at the back here, this should launch the ball up in the air, hit the ball a little bit higher than potentially the hybrid will. But this is where we're going to see, depending on how you deliver the golf club, whether it's the 5 wood or the hybrid, that's maybe going to best suit you. So, I'm going to go 5 shots first off with 5 wood and see kind of what performance this gives us. And a good solid strike, very, very high. Little draw, and good start at 225 carry. So for me, never really settled on hybrids. There have been times when I've gone to a 5 wood in the bag. Maybe I always stick with a long iron when I could potentially put a 5 wood in my bag, but certainly I think a lot of guys feel that when they're getting into the fairway woods and the shafts are that little bit longer, they maybe lack that little bit of control. But it definitely does what I thought it'd do. It's getting the ball up in the air, very, very high. And to be fair, hitting the ball a good distance. I mean, that's a long, long way for a 5 wood. Now, maybe a separate video, but I think a lot of guys are using 3 wood when they should be carrying 5 wood as well. But idea of today is it 5 wood or 3 hybrid at the same loft? Again, good. I think certainly round the Fylde coast, because it's generally very, very windy, I think a lot of guys are sometimes worried about having a club that hits the ball high. You know, for me, it's about getting that maximum carry on these shots. And certainly for a lot of guys, those longer par 3s as well, it's that ability to hit the ball high enough that if you land it on the green, you can stop it. And definitely with the CGB back in the head with the 5 wood, that's definitely promoting visually there that higher launch and that nice high ball flight. So even that one was a little bit off the bottom. Just drifting, very heavy winds down here today, so I've got TrackMan on normalised mode. But that one, even with one that I didn't quite get, still getting out there a really, really good distance. So one last one with 5 wood. It's definitely high. And certainly for me, if you play somewhere where, you know, you've got raised greens, the lofted fairway woods become a really good addition to the bag if you can control the strike with the length of shaft. So let's look at some numbers from 5 wood and see, did it perform how we hoped? Okay, so my average carry at 233, that's long. We're saying there's some super ball speed at 145, launching at just under 13 degrees, so absolutely ideal for me. 99 feet peak height, so even with one in there that was a little bit thin, that's still a very, very high ball flight. Not loads of spin there at 3,500, but certainly able to stop the ball there with height, maybe not so much backspin on that. Right, so that moves us into the hybrid. So this is standard 19 degree, but I've moved it down to 18, just so I've got the same loft on 5 wood and hybrid. But certainly when we looked at this head, you know, very noticeable how much more compact, not as much front to back, and certainly with the weight being a little bit nearer the face on this, I wouldn't expect this to maybe launch as high or maybe fly quite as high, but certainly going to be maybe a little bit easier to control for a lot of guys, simply down to length of shaft, you know, being much more iron length. So probably not expecting as much speed out of this. Will that result in less distance? Let's find out. So straight away a noticeably lower launch there. Just drifting on the breeze a little bit. But still good distance, but definitely a flatter trajectory straight away with that shot. And I would expect that with hybrid. Certainly I would expect this to get up in the air more than a long iron at this loft. But straight away there, a very, very different flight. Little bit toey. Now for me, certainly when we're getting into hybrids, I'm just testing the equivalent lofts here. I think where a lot of guys maybe would struggle with an 18 degree hybrid, this is where when you're getting into those more lofted hybrids at 4, 5, even 6 for a lot of guys, they do a really, really good job. Again, feels good, very solid. And I don't dislike that flight. It's definitely flatter. Definitely lower, and not going quite as far, so certainly maybe length of shaft here costing me a little bit of club head speed, and therefore not moving the ball quite as far. I'm just drifting a little bit more, should straighten up a touch. Again, good. So definitely for me, very different ball flights, you know, and even off these first few, some golfers are definitely going to find 5 wood easier because it's going to get the ball up in the air and flying a little bit higher, but some guys are definitely going to prefer the length of the hybrid. That's as good as I can hit that one. So again, decent height. And really, really good distances. So I think visually there, they look quite different flights, but let's look at the numbers then and see what the difference was between the 5 wood and the 3 hybrid. Right then guys, so ball speed was back very, very slightly, but I would have expected that a little bit because I think club head speed will have been slightly back with the shaft length being a little bit shorter, but certainly launching lower, even though both had 18 degrees of loft, this one launching only 11 degrees. Spin still round about that 3,500, which was fine, but we saw a peak height of 82 foot with the hybrid, where we saw 99 with the 5 wood. So very, very different launch and flight conditions from 2 different clubs. Right guys, so maybe not as big a difference as I thought there would be in distance. So only maybe like an 8-9 yard gap in there, but very, very different launch conditions. So as we expected, the hybrid certainly launched lower and flew a little bit flatter. So I would say for me, the 5 would definitely aimed more at the guy who needs that extra help getting the ball in the air, needs that extra help getting that height. And that could be, like we said, hitting it into greens, that ability to stop the ball a little bit quicker with height rather than backspin is going to be a little easier with the 5 wood. If you're potentially the guy who kind of just wants to maintain that trajectory that you get with your longer to mid irons, but maybe in kind of the 3 or the 4 iron, you lose that trajectory. This is where the hybrid is going to work really, really well for you. So you probably don't need quite as much help getting the ball in the air, but just want to maintain that peak height, whereas the 5 wood certainly aimed at the guy who's maybe wanting a little bit more height out of there. So like I said, a big difference in performance of ball flight, but maybe not overall distance. So it's interesting, I think, how those two clubs could suit very, very different golfers. But comment below and let me know, do you carry a 3 hybrid or a 5 wood or both? And if you do, why did you put that particular club or those clubs in your bag, and have you seen a big improvement? So guys, hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, like and share it. Like I said before, comment below. Be interesting to hear from you guys, and I'll get back to as many people as I can. So guys, if you have enjoyed today's video and you don't currently subscribe, just click the subscribe button. Make sure that you get my videos as soon as they drop. Follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Ali Taylor Golf. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys down here soon. Stay in contact.